So, wir gehen wieder rein in ein Video von Bunaye, ein knackiges Animationsvideo. I animated Jujutsu Kaisen in 1 hour versus 100 hours. Also Jujutsu Kaisen Animation in 1 Stunde versus in 100 Stunden. Okay, ich bin sehr gespannt, welche Szene er machen will.
I animated Jujutsu Kaisen in 1 hour.
This is actually so much worse than I thought it was gonna be.
Versus 100
okay,
hours.
auf jeden Fall eine Itadori-Szene.
This challenge was honestly a lot more intense than I thought it was gonna be, and it taught me a lot of things about myself I was not expecting to learn. So, to get started on this challenge, I asked my friend Deuce to sketch out a little JJK themed fight scene so that I could turn his sketch into an animation in 1 hour versus 100 hours. And after waiting for what seemed like decades, he sent me his Mona Lisa. Nice. With that being said, the 1 hour timer was about to start.
I have no idea how I'm supposed to do absolutely anything in 1 hour in regards to this, because I don't have a plan, I have nothing. So I'm just gonna go deep into this and try to figure out as I go. Hey, it's almost time. It's almost time. Let's go. 1 hour. Let's go.
Oder in einer Stunde?
No
Was will man überhaupt in einer Stunde schaffen?
So bad. This is so bad. This is actually so bad. Are we doing it? Next cut, next cut. I actually have no time to plan anything, so I just have to go at it raw, no pause.
Oder eine Stunde? Was willst du denn da schaffen?
Wow, I made his ears gigantic. Wait, he's shirtless. What am I
Bis
doing?
ich das gezeigt habe, brauche ich eine Stunde.
Holy moly, I'm cooked.
Du musst das ja noch alles animieren.
It has to be like them clashing or something, bro. Like I gotta be able to animate absolutely something.
Das wird nix.
Okay. So some smears here to save me some time from drawing. I feel like it lacks a lot of energy, but why am I explaining? I'm wasting time. Oh my god. Maybe Sukuna, like a close-up. Like a zoom in close up of Sukuna's face, maybe? Fuck, he doesn't have a shirt! Oh my god, what do I keep forgetting? I totally messed the shot up, I'm not gonna lie. This is not the idea I had.
Komm mal, halbe Stunde schon fast rum.
What is going on?
Er ist immer noch am Skizzieren.
Nah. This might be like top 3 worst drawings I've ever done.
Niemals. Er muss das noch. Er muss noch das Coloring machen. Er muss noch animieren. Soundeffekte, Synchro, keine Ahnung, ob er das machen will, aber...
There you go. That's the line art right there. I have 30 minutes left. Oh, man.
Ach du Scheiße.
Oh my god, time is running out. Oh my god, like my forearm hurts so much. I'm trying to draw so fast. My hand is just doing things now. Like I'm not even controlling myself anymore. This is actually so much worse than I thought it was gonna be. Alright. Let's export everything. I'm gonna be opening my After Effects already so I can get everything a lot faster.
Hey, sieht gar nicht so übel aus. Dass er das überhaupt noch geschafft hat, ist fatal.
This is something right here. This truly needs to be studied. Alright, it's pretty much done. Like there's really nothing else I could do of significance that's gonna change anything. So we finished with 1 minute and 12 seconds left.
And I was able to get like nothing done. I knew coming into this that it was gonna be bad, but this is really, really bad.
Alright, you ready to see this masterclass of
okay,
animation?
zeig her.
Yeah,
eine Stunde.
Alright, let's go.
Okay.
Ja. Yes, sir!
Oh mein Gott. Er hat's wirklich nicht fertig bekommen.
What are your thoughts?
Ich wollte es schon sagen, er hat es nicht fertig bekommen. Guck mal, die Skizzen sind teilweise nicht mal fertig. Aber das war auch klar. Ohne Spaß. Ich finde es so geil, dass er das so zeigt. Das merkt, wie authentisch der Typ ist. Der hat teilweise nicht mal Skizzen fertig bekommen mit Gesicht. Aber geil. Trotzdem geil.
Will now go from 1 hour to 4 days, aka 100 hours. It is officially the moment of truth as the clock is now ticking.
100 Stunden,
After waking up late and scrolling through social media for longer than I should have, I finally got to work on the storyboard. Unlike in the 1 hour version, I now have all the time in the world to properly plan out everything to make sure that things flow a lot smoother and look a lot better. I focused on creating detailed storyboards that closely match my vision for the final product. This approach is going to help me save a ton of time during the animation phase and allows me to think of extra ideas that could make each shot look cooler. I also decided to use Clip Studio Paint's free 3D character models for positioning and perspective. This allowed me to get some pretty cool angles that would have taken me a lot longer to figure out on my own, which was extremely helpful. And to wrap up the storyboard, I decided to add a final cut of Sukuna at the very end to add a nice finishing touch to the animation.
Das spart natürlich richtig viel Zeit, was so Perspektiven angeht. Und auch einfach, wo was
It was now
hinkommt.
day 2. I woke up motivated, ready to start working until... Yeah, if you can't tell already, I was absolutely cooked. After a couple of hours of rotting my brain, I finally decided to get up and start working on the animation. Cut 1 features Yuji looking menacingly at Sukuna with his fists up who are filled with curse energy. I basically got right into the line art since the storyboard was used as a sketch. I didn't have to sketch out all the movement because it's just gonna be Yuji looking ever so slightly down to emphasize him locking eyes with Sukuna, getting ready for a speedy strike at him. Since Deuce's awesome drawing featured Yuji with curse energy, I drew his fist in a different project file as a still frame and animated a couple of frames of his cursed energy, which I looped to give me the effect that I wanted. Later on during the composition phase, I'm gonna keyframe his hands moving up when he looks down to add some extra movement. When I was looking at the storyboard, it didn't look like there were a lot of cuts to do, especially when you compare it to my last project. So when I saw that I still had 62 hours left to complete the project, I thought to myself, I'll do it later today. And even though I did want to continue working on it, that later turned into tomorrow.
I'm not even gonna lie,
I've been goofing around a lot these last couple of days. I actually can't believe that half the time is gone already. I've just been procrastinating a lot, doom scrolling on social media, and all that really fun stuff that adds a lot of purpose to my life. I don't know, man. I really have no one to blame but myself, but I really need to start locking in or this is gonna be a completely useless video.
Without wasting any time, Cut 2 was up next, which features Sukuna looking curious, then he smiles at Itadori with an evil expression and his hand ignites with fire. This shot is obviously a lot more complex than the previous one, and I really wasn't feeling the original sketch from my storyboard, so I decided to redraw the whole thing from scratch. I yet again used Clip Studio's 3D models as my foundation, which I'm not gonna lie, it didn't save me much time, but it still kind of helped a bit. Since I wanted to totally transform his facial expression, I used the post-to-post animation technique, which made it super easy to map out the in-between frames between expressions. In Deuce's sketch, he drew Sukuna with his fire arrow attack, but since I already did that in one of my previous animations, I decided to just stick with simple fire coming out of his hand. I had the fire shoot out quickly and then slow down at the end for a dramatic effect. I also threw in a quick impact frame to add an extra oomph to the scene. I'm not gonna lie, this cut was pretty difficult to map out as a whole and took a lot longer than I thought it would, but the end result came up pretty cool. Up next is Cut 3, which features Yuji dashing towards Sukuna about to strike him. For this shot, I started with the final pose, which helped me visualize the earlier frames, if that makes any sense. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But either way, I took that single frame and kept on reusing it since I wanted to do a slow motion kind of shot towards the end, so it'd be like it starts fast and it ends slow. I tweaked the sketch with the transform and distort tool so that I didn't have to redraw the sketch over and over again. This looks horrible right now, but it's gonna come together in just a moment. I then went back and animated the rest. Some of the frames looked a bit goofy, but since they were gonna appear really fast, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I also added a couple of impact frames and added in-betweens. I went ahead and started working on the line art, which I did frame by frame. I made sure to properly tweak certain aspects of the parts I distorted so that it could look more organic. I went ahead and also added debris and smoke flying around in the background to add more force to the scene. And after doing all of that, this cut came out extremely clean. These two cuts took a lot longer to make than I anticipated, so I decided to finish the day on this high note and leave the rest for the final day, in which I was gonna have to lock in extremely hard. It is now day 4. I have a pretty long day ahead of me if I want to make something at the very least pretty decent. Lock in, chat! In Cut 4, Sukuna gets caught off guard and the camera zooms into his eye because Yuji is about to hit him in the face. Most of my brain power for this cut was used up during the storyboard section with the 3D models and the sketches, so I simply imported in all the sketches from the storyboard and drew the in-between frames to make the motion look smoother. The final frame of this cut zooming into Sukuna's eye was super smeared, which gave the shot a nice sense of speed and serves as the perfect transition into the next cut. And now that it's done, I gotta say, this is probably one of the coolest cuts of animation I've done on this channel so far. Up next was Cut 5, which features Yuji punching the fuck out of Sukuna. For this cut, I decided to separate Itadori and Sukuna into 2 separate project files so that when I import them into After Effects, I'll be able to move each character individually, giving me more control over the drawings. Honestly, the animation wasn't hard at all, I'm not gonna lie. I just looped 2 frames of their hair and Yuji's clothing waving in the wind to add extra impact. I animated Yuji's cursed energy in once, which is looped in the same way, but it has a couple of extra frames, which sort of allows it to stand out a bit. This cut is pretty straightforward, but the magic will emerge after the shot is fully composited. Now for the final cut. Sukuna looking surprised after Yuji's attack. Even though he's surprised, he's totally unharmed and turns to Yuji with an evil smile. At this point, I only had a couple of hours left, so I just got straight into animating without any hesitation. This cut uses a lot of the same techniques as cut 2, so I'm not gonna go over the same things all over again. As the clock was ticking down increasingly faster, I started to rush some of the drawings, and some of the frames started to look really bad. But that's totally on me. I wasted a ton of time earlier in the process, which only led me to end up paying for it at the very end. And with that, the animation phase was finally finished, leaving me with around 2 hours and 30 minutes to do all the backgrounds and compositing. It is truly time to lock in. I wanted this animation to take place in a city at night, with tons of buildings and lights to add to the atmosphere. I actually took some inspiration from a recent trip I took to Niagara Falls, where there was this one building that stood out to me, and I thought it would be really cool to add to the background. So I just threw it into the project off the top of my head. I was actually rushing through these because, you know, time constraints. So even though they came out a little rough, I'm happy with how it turned out for what it is. I drew one more background that was in a pretty interesting perspective so that I could reuse it across multiple cuts without it feeling repetitive. In fact, I ended up using this same background for cuts 2, 4, 5, and 6. Although this is not optimal and won't look the best, doing it this way saved me a ton of time, and it sort of gets the job done. These are the background assets I drew up. Finally, it's now time to bring everything together with the compositing phase. I started by dropping in all of the backgrounds, making sure they lined up with every scene. Next, I used the OLM color key plugin on the characters to isolate all the colors except for black, because that's the line art's color. Thanks to that, I was able to add an inner shadow layer style to give the characters more depth, since this whole scene is set at night. I applied lumetri color to the characters and tilted the temperature to a cooler blue tone. I also dropped the exposure a bit because, well, it's night, and I wanted the lighting to feel more natural. I then added a yellowish rim light around the characters to better blend them with the lighting of the scene. One thing I did this time around that I thought was pretty cool was selecting the color of their eyes with OLM color key and adding a glow effect. This small little addition added so much to the overall look of the scenes, and I think that it looks phenomenal. For the finishing touch, I added a glow effect to Yuji's cursed energy and Sukuna's fire, making the composition look even more intense. Finally, I imported everything into DaVinci Resolve for color correction to make the colors stand out a bit more and to make everything more consistent. Then added some camera shakes when they were needed. And just like that, after all the procrastination, lack of discipline, and unnecessary added stress in the last couple of days, this project is now finished. Self-sabotage aside, I'm really proud of how this project came out. I've always had this issue where I'm handed a due date and I do everything at the very end, and that really came out during this project. You know, I thought that I had to overcome that, but I guess not, so I just gotta lock in even more.
Okay. Clean. Brutal. Ui. Boah. Stark.
That shit crazy. That shit hard, nigga.
Ey, sehr stark, Alter. Wirklich sehr, sehr stark. Es sieht übertrieben clean aus. Da hat der Mann schon wieder richtig hardcore gezaubert. Also in 100 Stunden so ein cleanes Bild von Yuji, so ein cleanes Bild von Sukuna, teilweise richtig krasse Zoom-Effekte, Impact-Frame mit dabei gewesen, glaube ich, bei Yuji. Und dann so ein geiler Angriff, Perspektive, Hintergründe mit Schattierung, alles noch schnell gemacht. Es war wieder eine 10 von 10. Geiler Typ, Alter. Ich habe sogar mitbekommen, der arbeitet schon am nächsten Projekt. Ich meine, Chainsaw Man ist mit am Start und noch irgendwas. Kann sein, es ist wieder JJK. Auf jeden Fall ist Chainsaw Man am Start. Ich bin sehr gespannt. Ich freue mich schon aufs nächste Projekt.